Alright all, this is a quick look slash demo slash trailer slash whatever you want it to be for a game I've been working on the past couple of months called The Princess's Story, which was heavily inspired by a game from 1999 called King of Dragon Pass. If you're not familiar with that game, no worries, not a whole lot of people are. It's a pretty awesome game, but you should be able to get the gist of it just by looking at this quick look. So, let's get right into it. It starts off, and you're set up as the princess in this kingdom that's doing great called Arcadia. Your mother and father are the king and queen, they're doing great. You've got some siblings, they're all doing great. I'd ask you to choose your name, and we're going to choose Zenobia the Barbarian. And then we start with the sort of Ultima inspired, well, tell us about your history as you grew up. And it says, when you were a kid, where'd you love to play? And we're going to pick, the throne room. Everyone loves playing the throne room. And then it says, oh, well, this thing happened to you. You ran into this wandering giant, and he told you that he was, let's go with a reformed man-eater on a quest to find the Goblet of Life and save the souls of his many victims. And then we have another little setup, and it says, oh, the Sultana of Snakes came from the lands of the West, and she visited the royal court, and you really remembered this because of her bodyguard. And then we have, we're getting closer to more recent events, and the seer shows up, and he's like, yo, bad stuff is in store for Arcadia. And you say, well, you tell your father, well, you can't really just have people showing up and saying bad stuff is in store for Arcadia. You should kill him. So your father, he doesn't listen to you. But that's alright. Instead, somebody else comes to him and he says, yo, there's this old treaty. And it says, if we're ever in trouble, you gotta come help us. And boy, are we in trouble. So your father sets off on this perilous journey to go help these people who Arcadia signed a treaty with a long time ago. But before he leaves, he gives you something, and he gives you a book. And then your mother becomes charged from Arcadia, and long story short, she goes insane. And you're like, man, my mother's insane, she's the queen, I'm probably going to need some backing on this. I'm going to need, I'm going to need some way to fight my insane mother, who's also the queen, who has command of all the knights of Arcadia. So you go to a grizzled old war master, and he tells you, well, if you ever need to kill someone, here's how you do it. And sure enough, one by one, your brothers and sisters are sent off on these meaningless, impossible quests, and you never hear from them again, until it's just down to you and her. And she comes to you and she says, hey, I've got an impossible quest for you. And you kill her. And that's when the game sort of begins. We've answered some 10 questions, we've picked up your base stats, we've sort of guessed, what kind of personality you're going to start off with, which doesn't affect, what kind of personality you start off with doesn't affect what decisions you can choose, though it may affect how successful you are at those decisions. And we have our advisors here. We've got Inigo, our fool, and we can say, Inigo, you've been a great fool, but I'd rather have Odin as our fool. And we've got our spy master, and we're going to put the Earl in at spy master. And Lord Lionel is not a particularly good lawmaster, but we don't really have a lot of really good lawmasters. We'll put in Mistress Morgan. She's got 2 in magic and 1 panache. And wow. Okay, so we've got a 5-star general and a 5-star general and some more stars. And, so these are your advisors, and they have stats, and based on their stats, they'll either give you better or worse advice, and also those will affect some other things like battles and whatnot. We can go look at our princess's stats right here, and we can go through them. He says, how happy you are, how charismatic you are, how lucky you are, how rich you are, how good you are at fighting, how good you are at magic, how good you are at diplomacy, how good you are at panache, which is your style rating. And then it has a bunch of relations. These are your relations with like the noblemen and the people and your warriors and other countries. Oh, these are, yeah, lots of relations with other countries. But really there's not a whole lot to do on this string. on the screen other than recognize that we're pretty crappy at war, magic, diplomacy, and panache, and we sort of hope to get better at those before the end of the game. So, since this is also not just a King of Dragon Pass homage, but also it's got a little bit of Princess Maker in it, we're going to go ahead and select our activities for the week. So we can go to school, we can earn money. Basically, these three all earn money, these three all go to school, and these three all do different things. So let's gamble some. Let's take some diplomacy lessons, and let's take some magic lessons. Oh, and then you have orders. So this is what your warriors are going to be doing for the week. And you can send them to attack, you can tell them to recruit more warriors, you can tell them to help the farmers, you can send them on patrol, you can tell them to relax. We're going to have them help the farmers. Alright, looks good. So we hit next turn. And it says, here's a little summary of what you did during the week. You went to the tavern and you heard a story. The next week you went to the academy to learn diplomacy, and you met a serious-faced diplomacy instructor. And then you went to learn magic, but your magic instructor was ill, so you didn't learn any magic. Instead you learned staff twirling, which is, you know, a useful skill. And you sent your warriors to work in the fields. And then we can go back to the Princess Overview, and we can see that our style from learning staff twirling has improved a little bit from whatever it was before to mime. And diplomacy has improved a little bit from whatever it was before, I guess atrocious, to successful beggar. So we're moving up in the world. Oh, and these are red because you're terrible at them. Eventually, once you get good at them, they turn green. I doubt we'll have time for that in this tutorial. So let's hit next turn again, because I'm hoping we can get an event, which are somewhat random. Oh, well, that may be safe for YouTube. We'll see if anybody complains. So this is an event. You know, this is sort of random things that can happen, and how you choose will affect you or your stats or your kingdom. Lady Birdstrike has been murdered. You don't know who did it. The people are worried. They say, man, what are we going to do? And you have some options here. You can say, I'm not going to say anything. We're going to let the investigation go on. Or you can say, I know who did it, and accuse one of your political enemies. Or you can order her to die. Or you can say, no worries, her death is completely accidental. Or you can blame evil magic, and your advisors have their own take on this. You've seen their advice pop up as I go over these. You can also go to each advisor and hear the War Master say, there's no reason to speculate, or hear the Law Master say, there's totally a reason to speculate, or hear the Spy Master say, here's a clever pun about killing two birds with one ladybird. Or hear the Fool say something crazy because he's the Fool. And the Fool is always saying crazy things. That's why he's on the council. So we're going to say, I'm going to accuse one of my political enemies. And we'll get a little summary of what happens. Lord Catsworth, you blamed him. He's been opposing you. He ran away. But the people are super happy that, you got rid of this evil necromancer who killed, this beloved woman. So, hey, good job. And now, if we go to our Princess Overview, well, it doesn't show here, but the people actually love you a little more than they used to love you. And let's see if we can get another event. Events are fun. So here's another event. There's been a masquerade ball. Two guys coming home drunk. One of them stabbed the other. The family of the guys who got stabbed demand that they fight the guy who did the stabbing. And the guy who did the stabbing is Lord Pontal, and the guy whose family got stabbed are the Devrons. And they're like, yo, you gotta settle this. And again, our advisors say things like, Lord Pontal's an idiot. We should not go to bat for this guy. Or, we're not gonna be able to satisfy both sides. We should just make one side love us and the other side hate us, because one side's gonna hate us anyway. We're going to dismiss the challenge. The Pontals are our friends. They've stood by us in tough times. We want people who stand by us in tough times in the future, so we're going to say no. And it did a quick check on our diplomacy rating, and I know because, I wrote this. There's actually a failure condition here. This is the happy condition, where they don't end up totally hating each other. But there's a failure condition if you fail your diplomacy check, where they do end up hating each other and you. So it's a good thing we took those diplomacy classes earlier. Alright, and that's more or less it. There's obviously some stuff that hasn't been implemented, and there's some peripheral stuff. You can change your little portrait here. You can clear your calendar. I think... Oh, we're running out of money, right. Going to the academy costs money, and we're running out. But we're a lot better at magic and diplomacy than we used to be. Alright, well, thanks for watching all. I hope that gave you sort of some sense of what the game's about, and maybe it said, oh, that's cool, or maybe you said, man, that looks terrible. But either way, hope you had fun. See ya.